Call a hearing to order this evening. If we're having a hearing, we will have a planning commission meeting. Give you a little background on what we have this evening. We're having a public hearing to discuss and hear from the public on the proposed revisions to our solar energy and battery energy system and our barrel house ordinances that are all part of our UDO. The hearing, we've had 3-4 technical session meetings at the planning commission level this evening. This evening's meeting is to hear from the public on the proposed ordinances. They have been available on our website for everyone to have access to and so forth. They're rather lengthy, so we won't read through those this evening. After we hear from the public, we will then call the planning commission to order and we will discuss what we heard from the public and written material that we've also has been submitted regarding our proposed ordinance changes. Give you a few ground rules for this evening. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. If there is a group of speakers that have combined their time, that would be allowed up to a maximum of 15 minutes for any one individual speaker. So if there were, for example, if there were 5 speakers, one assigned their name, we would allow 15 minutes. If there were 20, it would still just be for 15 minutes time. I ask you also to refrain from applause, verbal, or clapping until we're completely done with our meeting and so forth. It slows the process down. In order to give everyone an opportunity to speak, our Taylor will be announcing who the speaker is, then also the next person that would be speaking after that, so they can move up to the front and be ready to speak as well. We're here to hear from you. It's not a question and answer session. So with that, we'll call the hearing to order and we'll get started. And Taylor will call our first speaker. I do one other thing. I do want to note, I said the UDO was online. After it was posted online, there was one mistake that we caught that has been changed. I want to make that so everyone is aware of it. It was under the land coverage caps, and it was a little confusing on how it read. It read to where possibly a 4,000 acre cap only applied to our counted acres that were within the jurisdictional area of the Jefferson County Planning Commission. And that's been changed to read as follows: a maximum of 4,000 acres of commercial SES projects within the fenced area can be approved as commercial SES special exceptions. Usage within all areas of Jefferson County, which shall include the planning jurisdictions of Jefferson County, Madison, and Hanover. Now that means that if Madison, for example, had acreage within their jurisdiction, it would count towards our 4,000 cap. Our cap has no bearing on other jurisdictions of zoning as such. So what Madison would choose to allow in theirs is not affected by our cap. For that, we'll go to there. We'll ask you to come up to the podium, give your name and address. There is a slide there and a microphone to turn it on from the start.
Would you like me to read that?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Jefferson County uses a multi-directional camera that is sound sensitive. Please refrain from side comments as the camera may pan to the audience rather than the subject at hand. The first speaker we'll have is Larry Basham, and Wes Thomas will be after him.
Thank you. I'd like to express my concerns on the solar. I can actually say I've seen the results of solar farms, and what it does to the land is very, very disappointing the way it looks. And the way the land looks, the way the ground appears where it will not be able to have any kind of growth at all, even regular grass. I don't think it even grow regular grass anymore. If it did, it would be fit for any animal. And I like to also express my concern on the devaluation of property values. That farm I told you about, the property values had increased at least 50% around it. This farm is down in Kentucky. It's on Highway 79, halfway between Irvington and Brandenburg. And I like to quote I like to quote an author by the name of G.K. Chesterton. He said, and this is gonna reflect that I know all farmers can do silver lead and all that, but what G.K. said, that we are all in the stormy sea in the same boat. And we owe each other terrible loyalty. And I'm saying that for the future of our children, our grandchildren, all of our descendants. But my descendants go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. And I've been fighting myself and speaking out against the deteriorating of the land. Well, what's wrong with that?
They're on the side, you turn it on.
Thank you.
Josh, could you turn our volume down a little bit on these two over here to the right? That may cut back on that feedback that's on for us.
Wes Thomas is our next speaker. And then Brenda Vince will be after him.
We're on the phone.
On the box.
Over there. See if that will take care of.
You talking about the
Yeah,
mics?
yeah, both of those are together. We'll put them both about the same.
Are we on? Okay, good. My name is Wes Thomas. I reside at 3665 West Prospect Road. You have a little signage problem, and I'm gonna get to, the family farm is involved in the solar project. My grandkids would be the sixth generation on Mount Vernon. And, most people know the farm as Reed's Look. We don't do too much in the orchard business anymore. It got to where labor, manual labor, and just the cost of doing it with the idea of a lot of time the pre and froze out and spring on, and it just made it harder and harder to keep it going. But trust me, this decision for us for some with Orion Energy for this project was not taken like we of it as a way to keep the farm together. With the financial part of it and the fact that, in my opinion, they're gonna take care of the land just fine. I went and looked at certain solar farms and talked to some people in the areas. And I'm not here to tell the horror stories that some of the people been saying at these meetings. The other great thing I think about it is the tax benefit that it's gonna bring. Not just to the landowners, but to for instance, the school system. Our school system needs the tax revenue that I just read in Madison Courier not a month ago, where the state's gonna start cutting their funding so much for the next 2 or 3 years, and it was several thousands of dollars each year. The schools need the money. This is a great way to get it. And I feel like, and I mean, I know there's opposition, but I think the good way outweighs the bad, if there is any bad. Okay, it way outweighs it. I know you guys have had a tough decision trying to get this ironed out, and I appreciate it.
Brenda Benz will be speaking, and after her, Alex Schaefer.
One thing I'd like to clarify everybody this evening, we are here discussing the provision of changes that we're making to our ordinances on solar battery systems and so forth. Our decision this evening has no direct bearing at all on the Orion project. That project had already came before our BZA. Our BZA said no to that project, and they've appealed that decision. But we're not here on anything that directly deals with that project. Now, if Orion were to reapply for a project, they would be applying under any revised ordinances once they're approved and passed by the county. So thank you.
My name is Brenda Benz. I reside at 2970 North, 533 West. Indiana State Code 151126, known as Indiana's agricultural canon, states that the state's policy is to protect and encourage the development of agricultural businesses, and agricultural land. According to the code, that consists of growing crops, raising livestock, timber production, pastures, other things, but no way industrial, solar, or anything like that's mentioned. The legal definition of a farm in Indiana is agricultural land and buildings used for commercial purposes to grow crops or raise animals. Jefferson County Unified Development Ordinance defines agricultural district purpose is intended to preserve and protect prime agricultural land by controlling the indiscriminate infiltration of urban development and incompatible land uses into these agricultural areas. Zoning ordinance of the city of Madison defines agriculture as the art or science of cultivating the ground and raising and harvesting crops. It also states that should be protected agricultural land. With all these codes and ordinances from the state level down to the county and city, why are we allowing in any way solar to take over our farmland? Why do you think these ordinances and codes were enacted? I'll tell you why. To preserve the overrun and ruin of the very land that feeds not only the United States of America, but many other countries around the world. We cannot make any more farmland. All we have is what the good Lord gave and gave to man to manage. I'm appalled that the proposed ordinances addressing commercial solar is so lax. We, the people of Jefferson County, the ones who trusted you to live up to those codes and ordinances, have done our due diligence by doing research, attending BCA meetings, planning commission meetings, and city council meetings to give you input as to what we, the people, feel is just for the sake of our farmland. We ask for limitations on size of projects, 400 acres or less. You ignored that. We ask for limitation on amount of farmland in Jefferson County to 2%, which included all land used for solar, not just out in the fields, but the setback acreage, screening vegetation, access roads for fire safety and maintenance. That's all farmland. You ignored that. Not only did you go well beyond that proposed 10% without including the setbacks, vegetation, screening roads, etc., all that you've allowed is closer to 14% of our farmland. We asked for setbacks of at least 1,000 feet. That was being generous when the World Health Organization, Florida Solar, Irish Solar, and others, and I have documentation that always said that, agree that the minimum setbacks for residents should be 1,060 feet. For large-scale fields, those producing 1 milliwatt or greater, and 656 for small scale, those producing 100 kilowatt and to 5 milliwatt. You have only 200 to 500 feet.
You got a point or two, your 3 minutes is expired. You got a point or two, go ahead, and we'll go on another 30 seconds.
Okay, one of the points I want to make is you talked about decommissioning. I talked to a gentleman who decommissioned 3 fields in Ohio and moved 5 to 6 feet of dirt because it was all contaminated with all these chemicals that are in those panels. And they backfilled it with sand. He said it was a mess. He said that land was forever gone. So I just wanted you to revisit your ordinances for several reasons. I'll give you a copy of what I have to say, so we can look at the other points.
Thank you.
Alex Schaefer, and after that will be Rhonda Bronner.
I'm donating my time. Sorry.
Are you Alex?
Lorraine White.
Rhonda Bronner,
There we go. I would like to raise a formal objection to the proposed 500-foot setback for the commercial solar energy system. I'll refer to as SES. Around the year 2000, a precedent was established requiring a 1,000-foot setback for confined animal feeding operations, which are agriculture in nature. It is inconsistent and unjustified to reduce this distance to 500 feet for SES, especially considering the industrial nature of the commercial solar installations. I urge you to maintain that consistency by upholding the 1,000-foot setback for all property lines as already applied to both battery energy storage systems, the BESS and SES. This distance is necessary to address several critical concerns: protection of adjacent agricultural and residential issues, safety and fire access, and noise pollution. Furthermore, industrial scale solar energy systems are not compatible with the Jefferson County's agricultural preservational goals. These goals prioritize the protection of farmland and rural character, which are not preserved through the industrial development as disguised as energy entities, green energy entities. I strongly support applying a 2% cap on setting SES on prime farmland, particularly prime soils. Additionally, given their industrial use classification, commercial SES facilities should be restricted to industrial zone districts and kept out of agricultural and residential zones. Lastly, given the known negative impact of property values caused by SES, the property value guarantee should be adopted to protect homeowners from financial loss. With 72 of the 92 counties in Indiana currently under moratorium, this should raise a red flag to all of us in this room. They don't call us the heartland of America for nothing. Consistency, safety, and farmland preservation must guide your decisions. Thank you for your consideration.
Sue Klein, and then Cindy Cox.
I donated my time.
Are you Cindy? Are you Cindy?
Yes. Look different. My name is Sue Klein. My name is Sue Klein, and I live on 2410 North, 533 West Madison. As I lay in bed these past weeks anticipating this meeting, I've gone over and over in my head, what can I say that will impact your decision tonight? I want to share with you some of my experiences this past year as I have tried to help stop industrial solar from coming to Jefferson County. On the positive, I have made new friends in my community. On the negative, I've discovered there are a few people I have known a long time that no longer look me in the face or speak to me or my husband. This breaks our heart. Perhaps the most telling experience were the people I have met at the trash pickup sites at various locations in our county. Last year, we went to the trash pickup sites and asked people to sign a petition to state they did not want industrial solar in Jefferson County. I worked at the Rikers Ridge site last year, and I can honestly say only 2 persons did not want to sign and were in favor of industrial solar. And that, I only worked 2 hours, and it was a constant flow of people coming, bringing their trash. It was a brand new experience for me, but it was a lot of people. Last week, I worked at the deputy trash pickup site, and we were passing out the flyers to invite the public to come tonight and briefly discussing what we felt was at stake. The most common response was that we signed that petition last year, we thought this was over. So the most, again, many stated they were not in favor of industrial solar in Jefferson County. I only encountered 1 person in favor of industrial solar. I respectfully ask that this planning commission will give an unfavorable vote on the setback. The solar energy storage and battery energy storage system do not align with other commercial use special exception in ag districts such as confined animal feeding operations. 1,000 feet setbacks are necessary for safety, fire access, and to reduce noise pollution. Thank you.
We have had 2 people donate their time to Warren White.
Yes, I know, they're all just like, so we have to share it.
Lynette Anderson will be next.
I want this to be, it's not a great.
Have 9 minutes.
I've donated my time to her as well.
Okay, well, we have 15 minutes.
I will move as quickly through this as possible.
Let me get the names of people that donated the time to make it 15. Here, a couple of hands that went up.
Maybe more than enough.
Jerry Jane.
How many are going to get everybody? Yeah, everyone that donated their time.
I need another name. Who else has donated their time? Can you say it?
More on the speaker sheet.
I find page 2.
There's another name.
But all of the people are donating their free.
I don't,
Yeah,
I did not see the
That's fine.
sheet, so.
we just need the list, so we know not to follow it. But bear with it, it's wrong.
No worries.
Yeah. You know, we only get 5. He doesn't interest in. You're more than 5. Yeah, 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I will try and move through this quickly and efficiently for you all, but so that you can get the information that needed out of it. I've been asked to provide this commission with information regarding the current proposed amendments to the Jefferson County Unified Development Ordinance. I represent Alex Schaefer as well as over 1,000 concerned citizens in Jefferson County. If you look at tab 11 in your binders, you will see the list of citizens which I represent here tonight. Jefferson County concerned citizens or interested parties will be affected by these proposed amendments. I've provided you a history of the amendments from the time that the moratorium was enacted and through the technical review committee. You can read through that. You don't need to do that for you. On March 18th, 2025, a letter was sent to the planning commission by Chelsea R. Stanley. Paragraph 2 of this letter cites only portions of Indiana Code 36728, failing to provide that IC 36728 does not apply to ordinances which impose reasonable restrictions on solar energy systems. Additionally, while A142 provides for certain standards, it does not affect a unit's planning and zoning powers under Indiana Code 367 with respect to permitting, construction, installation, or the siting of one or more CSE systems in the unit. Upon information released, the planning commission member Lisa Hammock has a financial interest in property that's being leased for commercial SES. Pursuant to Indiana Code 3541.1 1.4b, a public servant knowingly or intentionally has a pecuniary interest or derives a profit from or a contract or purchase connected with an action by the governmental entity served by the public servant commits a conflict of interest. Based on this information, Ms. Hammond should refrain from voting on proposed amendments to the Jefferson County Solar Ordinance. The factors for the planning commission to consider when amending the zoning ordinance are under 36-74603. They're listed out here on page 2 for you, and we'll walk through each one of those factors. A review of the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan shows how important farming is to the citizens. The very first goal of the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan is to support the viability of agriculture in Jefferson County. And I provided you with just pictures of these portions of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan goes on to provide additional information regarding the goal. In addition to the information in the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan is also supported by a study done by the College of Agricultural Life Sciences at Virginia Tech. Cal's report shows that the world's agricultural productivity isn't growing fast enough to be able to feed an estimated global population by nearly 10 billion people by 2050. And this is one of the diagrams that they had. In her June 9, 2025 letter, Council for Landowners asserts that SES will not adversely impact either the soil or the environment. Unfortunately, the Department of Environmental Quality disagrees. In December of 2022, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality issued a report stating that once altered, Virginia's prime agricultural soils and forest lands cannot be restored to prime productivity. And I'm giving you a copy of that under tab 1. The current proposed amendments to the Jefferson County Ordinance allow for the conversion of 4,000 acres of prime farmland in Jefferson County. As shown above, this land is extremely valuable and serves to feed citizens and animals. In advancement of the preservation and protection of prime farmland in Jefferson County concerned citizens propose a change to the land use caps listed on page 10 of the proposed amendments to a maximum of 2% cap on the amount of prime farmland which can be converted to commercial SES. Prime farmland is defined by the Soil Data Access Prime and other important farmland reports for Jefferson County in the farm access column as all areas are prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. The second factor to consider is the current conditions and character of current structures and uses in the district. Page 27 of the comprehensive plan encourages industry and locations that do not create land use conflict and are not visually intrusive. And that's a picture of that page. Here it is clear that placing commercial SES next to residential districts and ag land creates a conflict with these land uses for the following reasons. And noise is the first reason. I just have a copy of Idlewife's own lease, and so that's why you're seeing their name. Their lease agreement states that they will emit and cause the emission of noise. It will impact the owner's views, cast shadows, and create, cause, and emit glare or shadows onto the property or adjacent properties that is a copy and paste directly from an Idlewife lease. The information that I'm providing here today at the NIH study for auditory and non-auditory effects of noise. You can see that as Exhibit 2 under the second tab. That information is provided for you. This study states that noise, even as low as 33 decibels, can induce psychological reactions during sleep, including autonomic, motor, and cortical arousals. Jefferson County concerned citizens request that the SES sound level found on page 15 of the proposed amendments to the Jefferson County Ordinance be reduced to 30 decibels, the maximum sound level. The next item is hazardous materials and environmental contamination. The EPA has regulations related to toxic characteristics, leaching procedures, standards to address materials that may cause toxic poisoning during direct contact or leaching into the soil or ground. Photovoltaic panels are one of the materials that the EPA regulates. To ensure that we're clear about the materials in PV panels, I've provided a copy of a material safety data sheet for, I think this one is for cadmium. So if you're gonna go to 3, you'll see the information on cadmium now. On October 1st, 2024, I then drafted a report on the decommissioning and disposal of solar panels and wind power equipment. I then determined hazardous waste testing on solar panels in the marketplace has indicated that different varieties of solar panels have different metals present in the semiconductor and solder. Some of these metals, like lead and cadmium, are harmful to human health and the environment at high levels. If these metals are present in high enough quantities in solar panel waste would be hazardous waste under the RCRA. Some solar panels are considered hazardous waste and some are not, even within the same model or manufacturer. There are potential hazards and emergency management. The presence of PV systems as well as battery energy storage produces unique hazards to emergency crews. There's effects on wildlife. A nuisance, which we discussed a little bit earlier when we discussed the picture that I took from the Idlewild lease. A property owner who believes that their neighbor has caused a nuisance may file a lawsuit to stop the behavior or condition causing the nuisance. Parties typically receive damages for a nuisance. Indiana Code 32-36-6 provides the definition that you have of a nuisance. As shown above, the commercial SES leases include language regarding nuisance that will be caused during their operation. There's some information with regards to construction work and drainage concerns, which occur. In her letter of June 9th, 2025, Councilor Orlando points out setbacks and screening create dead space, otherwise known as a buffer between two conflicting land uses. To the extent that these industrial SES are placed next to residential properties, this dead space is vitally necessary to protect health, safety, and general welfare for participating landowners. Given that the commercial SES is an industrial use, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens recommends that commercial SES should be properly sited in industrial districts, like Industrial 1 and Industrial 2, and away from agricultural and residential areas. To that end, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens recommends that their planning commission amend the Jefferson County ordinance to exclude commercial SES as a special use in ag, NB, and that should say GB, apologies. Commercial SES would still be permitted in industrial districts with a special use permit. Additionally, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens recommend that their planning commission amend the commercial SES non-participating setbacks to be set at a minimum of 1,000 feet from a non-participating property line. This setback serves to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of non-participating property owners. Next, with regards to commercial SES screening, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens request that their representatives extend commercial SES screening along the entire length of the non-participating parcel. Finally, a separate ordinance for battery energy storage should be adopted. You'll find a sample battery energy storage ordinance under tab 4 of your binder. The most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. Once again, Jefferson County has already spoken on this issue. The comprehensive plan is clear in its goal of protecting prime farmland. Industrial uses belong in industrial districts. Ron Heininger, Professor and Extension Specialist, Crop and Soil Sciences, wrote a report entitled Solar Farming, Changing the Future of Farming. His report is included as tab 5 in your binder. Commercial SES requires large land acquisitions and substantial construction work. After the acquisition of thousands of acres of productive land, the average efficiency of a solar panel is only 21%, lower than the efficiency of coal or natural gas. The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. Next, when amending the ordinance, the planning commission must consider the conservation of property values. On June 26, 2022, Mayor Clinton Clay provided a report regarding the negative impacts of industrial solar on adjacent property. In her analysis, she includes peer-reviewed studies, case studies by professional real estate appraisers, solar developers, neighbor agreement buyout, and additionally 4 case studies. You can read through the information there, but in general, it indicates that there are property value damages of 6 to 30%. The preponderance of evidence based on this empirical study indicates industrial scale solar farms negatively impact adjacent properties to the extent that their utility, as interpreted by the market, is affected. A copy of the first page of that study is under tab 6 for you. She also, on November 5th, 2024, put together a report regarding the diminution of property value resulting from transmission lines. In her report, Clay cites a study that was prepared for the case of Kentucky Utility Company versus James and Mary Lind, which estimates the impacts of high voltage transmission lines on 3 agricultural properties. Her report states the diminution can range between 15 to 50%, depending on the placement of the easement within the property. The study also indicated buyers' resistance to lots impacted by high voltage transmission lines at the same time. That study is under tab 7 for you. Given these known impacts to property value, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens believes that the property value guarantee language that's listed here should be adopted as part of your proposed revisions to the Jefferson County Solar Ordinance. I've given you information, I've given Jefferson County information previously on photovoltaic heat islands, but I'm providing once again, it is under tab 8 of your binder. Given this information with regards to photovoltaic heat islands, when a property is surrounded by an industrial solar plant, Jefferson County Concerned Citizens is requesting the adoption of the following enclosure guarantee stating no commercial SES shall enclose more than 2 sides of a non-participating residence. And I want to pop back to the property value guarantee. To the extent that Solar or the solar developer has an issue with signing on to a property value guarantee, let's remember that they don't believe that they affect property value. So they'll never have to pay anything out then. So I don't know why they'd be resistant to signing that. It will have no effect on them, but it will protect your citizens in your county. Finally, the planning commission members are taxed to its consideration of responsible growth and development. As shown above, placing commercial SES and industrial applications on residential and ag land does not lend to responsible growth and development for the county. The American Planning Association spoke on the matter of the placement of solar facilities. The location of utility scale solar facilities is the single most important factor in evaluating an application because of the large amount of land required and extended period that the land is dedicated to a singular use. Solar facilities can be appropriately located in areas where they are difficult to detect, the prior use of land has been marginalized, and there are no designated future uses. There's a copy of the study under.
Your time's expired. I'll give you another 30 seconds.
There was a copy under exhibit 9 for you there. Let's just go over the final exhibits that I have. Finally, with regards to responsible growth and development, Jefferson County ranks 6th overall in net annual electric generation. There is no urgency to add commercial SES to Jefferson County, and tab 10 provides you the information on that as well. So I would just say Jefferson County Concerned Citizens request the members of their planning commission consider all of the information provided and amend the ordinance to comply with the Indiana Code 36-74603.
But then Anderson, and then after her will be Carlos May Jr.
My name is Lynette Anderson, 2333 South. 1066 West, Lexington, Indiana. I'm asking the Jefferson County Planning Commission for a non-favorable recommendation to the solar ordinances as they are currently written. With that said, I'm asking for the ordinances to be amended. Addressing screening for the non-participating landowners. Screening should be the entire length of the parcel in all zoning districts. There's evidential proof that commercial solar energy systems, large-scale industrial-sized solar projects, negatively impact property values. These projects decrease the value of property. In addition, particularly speaking of non-participating ag land having no required screening, as proposed on page 10, that also is considered page 67 of the whole ordinance. On page 10, item D, III, number 3, results in an injurious use and enjoyment of the non-participating property as there are permissible uses in the ag district that do not require special exception approval. Two such uses in particular, single-family dwelling and farmstead, do not require plat approval. Therefore, item D, III, number 3, is injurious to the use and enjoyment of the property. Again, I request the screening be the entire length of the parcel. Addressing non-participating setbacks. I ask for an amendment of 1,000 feet setback with no variances from non-participating property lines. Once again, there's evidential proof that property values decrease due to commercial solar energy systems. This 1,000 feet setback with no variances is also for noise, safety, and protection. Addressing acreage cap. I ask for an amendment of a county-wide 2% cap. The comp plan goal number 1 is to support the viability of agriculture in Jefferson County, preserve or incorporate vistas, wooded, scenic areas, protect agricultural land, and support the success of farming. Work with partners to attract businesses that are related to and support value-added agriculture in the county. Commercial solar energy systems does not add value to agriculture in the county, nor does it preserve vistas, wooded, or scenic areas, nor does it protect ag land or support the success of farming. I will remind the Jefferson County Planning Commission that the Jefferson County PZA ruled in its findings of fact on a commercial solar energy system application that by removing 1.9% of ag land for commercial solar is detrimental to the farming community. Again, I request an amendment of a county-wide 2% cap. The last amendment request is to remove commercial solar energy systems out of the ag district, zoning district, and add language that the ag zoning district not allow rezoning. A few years ago, I sat with you and we all worked tirelessly with you in drafting a new UDO. And a few months ago, I sat with your solar tech committee discussing solar ordinances. Despite what we were told or what we thought, we do not have to allow commercial solar energy systems to be a use in ag zoning districts. As I pointed out earlier, there's evidential proof that property values decrease. That removing the 1.9% of ag land is detrimental. And I ask that between all this factual information and the proof that I have given you, that I ask you that you uphold the comp plans goal number 1, respect the BZA's ruling of its finding of fact, and do not, I ask you, please do not recommend the solar ordinances as they are written, but to amend the solar ordinances to better our community and better our county. I thank you for your consideration of these proposed amendments.
Carlos Mayhew, and then after that would be Carrie Vaughn.
See, do I have to have 20 people, or at least 5 people to get 15 minutes?
5.
No, I don't think I have that many. Oh,
What's your name?
I'm Carlos May Jr. and I live at 8338 South Mansfield Road, Hanover, Indiana. Here are relevant reasons for stopping the solar cap.
Do you have people seating time to you?
I think,
We did.
I think I got 2 people, but I don't think I have 5.
That's right, we just need their names.
We have Coleman and Dr. Patrick. I have a garden sheet.
You have 9 minutes.
9 minutes. There are relevant reasons for stopping the solar power. People against the solar panel installation have their relevant reasons for trying to stop it. One statement I heard is, let's say the farmland doesn't belong to the people against solar, it belongs to the farmers and other landowners. The land won't be strip mined, the solar will have a solar panel assembly installed on top of it. No damage will be done to the land, it can be returned to farming. We have a overage of land in this area because there's very few tobacco crops. I remember 30 or 40 years ago, almost every farm had a tobacco crop on it, and there's just, that's how you can have an overage of land because we don't have the tobacco. Another statement I've heard is the soil was too rich for solar installation. The soil was rich because it's farmed in a manner to make it rich, so the farmer can get the most yield from the crops. I've heard some people say solar panel assembly looks bad. A solar panel assembly doesn't look as bad as scrap metal inside red ball recycling mass in Louisiana. But it doesn't matter how a solar panel assembly or scrap metal looks because you can't see it for privacy reasons. I've heard people complain about the noise from inverter cooling fans. And cooling fans aren't as noisy as some trucks and other motor vehicles going down the road. Solar installation is nothing but good. And some of the good things is temporary jobs, permanent jobs, tax money, a farmer house, less pollution from coal burning power plants and others. I know people complain about those inverter cooling fans and every night. So I don't hear the cats, they're gonna have to run a fan next to my bed, which is probably worse, or it's like running out here just on fans, so it's probably not as noisy as an inverter fan. I'd like to lose my speech sometimes.
Carrie Vaughn and then Chelsea Stanley.
My name is Carrie Vaughn. I live at 8513 Balmer Drive in Charlestown. I do want to thank you for having us here. It's been a long and arduous process, and it seems like there's a decent proposal where everyone wins. So this shows good public leadership, and I thank you for that. But I would respectfully ask for it to be considered to move the property line setback to 100 feet. The current suggestion seems like it would leave an unattractive tracks and wasted land that would only require maintenance, but other than that, I just thank you for your time and your consideration.
Chelsea Stanley and then Robin Henderson.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Chelsea Stanley. I am an attorney from Sites and Harvesting on behalf of certain interested Jefferson County landowners to express concerns about the ordinance. Certain people didn't sign up to speak, so I'm speaking on their behalf. It'll be 15 minutes, only need 8 minutes. Amanda Jackson, Harry Jackson, Marilyn Jackson, but I'm gonna talk for 8 minutes and you can cut me off. They didn't sign.
Let's get your name here in a moment. What are the ones that signed up for their checks?
They didn't put their names on because I was gonna speak in her place.
Amanda Jackson
Amanda Jackson.
and Marilyn Jackson.
And that'll be all I need. Cut me off at 9.
Go ahead.
The landowners would like to start by thanking the technical committee and the planning commission for addressing several of their concerns with prior versions of the proposed ordinance that would have unlawfully and effectively prohibited solar. Nevertheless, certain crucial issues do remain. The amendments are not just regulatory refinements. they undermine the viability of solar projects in this county. As well as the broader property rights, economic development, and energy independence that we as a community and state have long sought to promote. Indiana law is clear in its intent. Under Indiana Code Section 36-7-2-8, it is the policy of our state, quote, to promote and encourage the use of solar energy systems and to remove obstacles to their use. That law goes further. It prohibits any local ordinance that has the effect of prohibiting or unreasonably restricting the use of solar energy systems, except where it's necessary to protect public health and safety. You heard about reasonable restrictions earlier from Ms. White. Those, for example, quote, do not significantly increase the cost of the system. That's not what we have here, and that's why there are complaints. I've also cited in materials provided an Indiana Supreme Court case that does deal with permitting requirements and held that those also had to be reasonable with regard to solar. Also, Indiana Code Section 8-1-2-401.2B prohibits municipality from enacting an ordinance that would discriminate against solar as an energy source. So despite this legislative directive, some of the proposed amendments include extreme provisions, only two of which I want to briefly discuss this evening. First, the proposed ordinance contains a 500-foot setback, which is more than 1.5 football fields for non-participating residences, churches, schools, and cemeteries. In combination with the screening requirement that results in it's a significant dead space, hundreds of feet of dead space, and these distances aren't tied to any demonstrated health or safety rationale. In fact, the setback distances far exceed the setbacks actually recommended in the Indiana Code. The proposed requirement instead appears to be a remnant of a de facto ban on solar development that would make projects physically and economically infeasible. Second, the proposed ordinance sets forth excessively stringent site restoration standards for solar companies, then institutes aggressive bonding requirements in favor of the county if those standards are not met. Yet the ordinance then requires landowners to execute a vague, quote, affidavit of responsibility that the landowners will instead bear the ultimate responsibility for decommissioning. These provisions seem to punish landowners for desiring to participate in solar development. Nowhere is that more evident than in the newly added soil testing and site restoration provisions. The extensive soil sampling and laboratory testing and reporting requirements are unsupported by health or safety needs. Especially on a 1 acre grid. The vegetation plans call for pollinator species, which are gonna enhance the soil composition rather than deprive soils of nutrients as in production agriculture. So regardless, the landowner should retain flexibility and the ordinance should provide that flexibility to determine a final use consistent with applicable zoning and practical restoration outcomes. Those are only two of the prominent examples that demonstrate the proposed ordinance changes as written don't strike the required balance. The changes instead create burdensome setbacks and impose vague criteria and undefined discretionary standards that have no grounding in public health or safety concerns. The changes apply unwarranted governmental overreach to private property, while most of the concerns raised by the opponents are already regulated by state and federal law. To brief, these measures that I've mentioned and certain, in the letters that I've written they're not just restrictive, they're punitive. By doing so, they directly violate statutory provisions and protections Indiana has put in place. Beyond legality, let's talk about fairness and local impact. Many landowners in this county have already entered into agreements with one solar developer. These are your neighbors, local citizens, and multi-generational farming families who are seeking to derive economic benefit from their land, just like anyone else would have this land. To impose new arbitrary restrictions that would make those leases unviable is more than a regulatory shift. It's an act that could jeopardize local investment, erode landowner trust, and invite potential leaders from budgets. More commercial solar projects, including our county project, bring tangible benefits to the county that would benefit its citizens, including clients, increased tax revenue, construction spending, and long-term investment in rural and agricultural communities. These are opportunities Jefferson County should be welcoming, not chasing away. It's difficult to ignore the direction that certain opponents are pushing this body to head toward. A review of recent discussions and proposals, led myself and my landowner clients to the unavoidable conclusion that the real goal of these proposed amendments would be the outright exclusion or severe limitation of commercial solar development in this county. It would be unlawful. It'd be a dangerous precedent. Not only contradicts state policy, but it also sends the message that this county is not interested when it comes to national and state energy policy and its landowners' interests. Make no mistake, investors, developers, and landowners are paying attention. When an ordinance is written in a way that appears arbitrary or capricious or designed specifically to deter otherwise lawful projects, it undermines trust in local governments and casts a long shadow over future opportunities. As has been pointed out, I've submitted more detailed letters for your consideration through your attorney's office. Copies with me outlining our position. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I hope you'll consider these landowners' perspective that the further discussion and collaboration, a reasonable and more legally sound ordinance can be developed than the one currently being discussed tonight. Thank you, guys.
The letter has been distributed. It went out early morning.
Thank you.
Brian Henderson, and then we'll have Billy Neal.
On. But probably slide up once.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Robin Henderson, 614 East Main Street, Madison. Before I moved here, I was vice president of an environmental monitoring company. Among other things, we monitored pollution in Los Angeles before the riots, across the board. I taught physics and environmental science at Purdue, and I keep a pretty close tab of what's going on in what I wanted to do is urge you to keep our options open, because it was happening extremely fast, just literally in the past less than 3 months. First of all, money. IKE is not going to be open forever. That tax money, their license is due for renewal in 2027, and every environmental and organization in Indiana is going to be fighting against renewing that thing. And believe it or not, the ratepayers in Ohio are going to be, because they're really be taking for a ride on it. They're subsidizing $100 million a year loss on their rates. And Ohio legislature just passed a law, I think in May, that they can no longer do that. So what are the options? If you recall, the reason that the two solar companies and the battery companies came here, not because they think we're hillbillies or ignorant, is because we have one of the best power grids in the state of Indiana. We have a 345 kilovolt power line that runs from the Ohio River all the way up to South Bend. We have a 240,000 kilovolt line that runs along 256, those big steel poles that you see, and then it dies down to southwest of Indiana. And then IKE has their own power line that goes over to Ohio. And if you come up the hill, you see all those evacuation sheds up on the hill. That's where all these power grids are tied together. So if you're doing any kind of energy, you have to be able to tie in that power grid. That's the reason all of those three companies were there. We really have to thank the failed Marble Hill for having those, because it was built to supply power to throughout Indiana from there. So what's happening? This legislature in Indiana just passed a law to expedite the licensing of what's called small modular reactors, nuclear reactors. And believe it or not, 1 month ago, President Trump ordered all the federal agencies to get behind that and to speed up this across the US.
Another 30 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Your time's expired, but you can have another 30 seconds.
So what does that mean? Hoosier Energy, which is a cooperative of 1/3 of southern Indiana, every county except Jefferson is in it. They got close to a $1 billion grant from the USDA to restart a nuclear power plant up in Michigan, and $250,000 for solar. That's there. AEP, which owns Rockport, they just applied for grants to study a small new modular reactor in Rockport. And TVA is behind that in Tennessee Valley, and they've asked the state legislatures for money to study it. It's moving extremely fast. There's something called baseline. Baseline is power that you need, the maximum power that you need to supply power. It peaks in the daytime and goes down at night. And that's one of the reasons that IKE is losing money, because they run the baseline high. So anything that has steam takes several days to build up energy, to do it.
To stay consistent with everyone, I have to limit.
I'm sorry?
I'm gonna have to tell you, your time has expired to stay
Okay.
consistent with everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
I have handouts that you can look at, that each of these points I made, you can look up. I could have outdone the young lady and did a 178-page Purdue report, but you can look on that and find
We
it.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, so,
Good evening. My name's William Hill. I live at 2774 North County Road, 450 West Madison. I do appreciate and thank you all for hearing us tonight. I've been pretty quiet about all this. I hate what it's did to our county. Look behind me. Red shirts, green shirts, separated, friends, family members. But my concern is my property value. We can all read good and bad on Google. We can Google anything. We can be for it today, against it tomorrow. But I do not believe that it's only going to lower my property value 3 to 6%. Just on the county road I live, I have a neighbor to the south, a neighbor to the right. If I figure 10%, which I believe is probably a minimum, you're looking at $130,000 in 3 homes. So who's paying for that? As well as, from my understanding, that 30% of these projects are coming with a whole paid for by government subsidies. There again, who pays for that? I come before you guys because you're my neighbor. You're in my county. We've heard stories in other parts of Indiana, other towns in Indiana. You are our people too. You are Jefferson County. Please consider, if it's gonna be around me, I deem it when I walk out of my porch a junkyard. I believe the solar companies already deem it as a junkyard. That's why they want to put mounds of dirt. They want to plant flowers. They want to plant trees and shrubs because they didn't know what it is. I don't want that across from me. I had the opportunity to talk to Blackstone whenever they were in town before. I felt like 50% of what I asked him, he told me the truth. One thing I asked him, I said, can I hear the humming off of the inverter? Here's what he asked me. How old are you? I said, 59. I said, I'm not deaf, but I can't hear like I used to. He said, Mr. Neal, you're gonna hear humming. I don't want to walk on the front porch and hear humming. Please consider the setback at least 1,000 feet. Because I don't want the junkyard outside my home, and no one else, including you all, do either. Thank you, appreciate your time.
Christie Marshall. And then Amanda Hoffman.
Hi, my name. Hello? Hi, my name is Christy Marshall. I live at 8175 West New Bethel Road, Jefferson County. For the past several months, this body's worked collaboratively with the Jefferson County Solar Technical Committee, local citizens, and investors to develop the amendments to the Jefferson County Unified Development Ordinance. Well, the census has not always been easy to achieve. We're here today in a step to move forward with adopting these amendments to our EDO. The current draft reflects several meaningful improvements, particularly in the areas of administrative procedure, decommissioning protocols, bonding requirements. Those were all commendable developments in the ordinance that were much needed, and we do appreciate those. However, there are still substantial concerns remaining. The key issues persist regarding the use of agricultural land. That's been at the forefront of my concern from the initial encounters with that door knock from a solar developer. Potential impacts on neighboring property values and health and safety concerns. Those are not minor matters to ignore. They go to the heart of how we responsibly balance land use with the core objectives laid out in the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan, particularly the protection of residents' welfare, property rights, and the county's agricultural legacy. I urge this body to issue an unfavorable recommendation on the amendments as they are currently written, and to reevaluate specific languages and inconsistencies within the draft. Using the comprehensive plan as the guided document, the roadmap it was always intended to be. I respectfully recommend the following revisions. Prime farmland preservation, page 10 of the draft. Limit the conversion of prime farmland to commercial solar energy to no more than 2%. We've had this, they're sending a signal from the state legislative body where they adopted an amendment unanimously. We're hearing an outcry from the USDA, from Secretary of State Brooke Rawlings, protect your farmland. The Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan clearly states that renewable energy should only be considered in an additional energy source if an additional energy source is needed. It's also worth noting that Jefferson County ranks number 6 in Indiana and 246 nationwide in net annual electricity generation. This suggests we are doing our part here in Jefferson County, and we can afford utility scale energy projects at the expense of our valuable farmland.
Your time expired, but you have another 20 seconds.
Oh, okay, thank you. I also would like to have setbacks reevaluated as they do not align with the precedent set under other special use exceptions, referring to CAPO and a property value guarantee, based upon the fact that we removed those provisions on the 400 acre cap on the project with a 1 mile buffer. The intent behind that was to mitigate the harm to the property value in that area, as well as when we looked at those impact studies, that the smaller the scale of the project, the smaller the impact on the property value. So that was the reason it was asked. It wasn't to be an excessive regulator. Thank you.
Amanda Hoffman, and then Richard Fellows.
Hello. Good evening, my name is Amanda Hoffman, address is 2345 South Lyndhurst Drive, Indianapolis, Indiana. I thank the county officials for dedicating my time to review these standards. I have one point I'd like to make regarding the proposed studio for solar. There's a standard in the decommissioning portion of the code regarding soil samples. We're very much supportive of soil samples as there's nothing in the solar panels that will cause anything toxic to go into the soil. However, doing a sample every acre is quite extensive. As far as we can find, Indiana doesn't necessarily have an acreage suggestion or requirement on testing soils for metals or toxicity. The closest we could find was from the state of Michigan, which has suggestions of tests every 10 to 15 acres. I think I can give the county that information if you're curious. We would support a test every 10 to 15 acres to create a baseline for the project and require subsequent tests if there are ever incidents where a panel breaks in that particular area. I thank you so much for your time.
Richard Fellows, and then Dale Sides.
You will have to cut me off. I'll be brief.
My name is Richard Fellows. I live in Clark County, down there on Marlboro Road. We got land down there on that area. Does this concern us? I didn't know about this meeting.
Our ordinances do not play in the Clark County House.
Yes, sir, but it would make it easier for East to possibly go in down there.
Depends on who you talk to. Now, we're not here to answer questions, we're here to hear from you.
Well,
Appreciate you answering
my
us.
questions, and you won't have to cut me off. I just like to reiterate everything Ms. White said. I think you got a binder from her. Is that right? Yeah, Ms. White. Please, let me be one that would reiterate those. I just want to be sure that we know that any change that's being made to our general ag zoning, really needs to be thought long and hard about. I know we all are going to do that. I appreciate your effort that you put forth, but we sure don't think needs solar areas in this day. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Dale Sides. And then Tammy Hagemeyer. Dale, are you here? We'll hear from Tammy Hagemeyer. And this will be on the Barrel Warehouse.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to come before the board and say thank you for considering the Barrel Warehouse. Excuse me, my address is 26 French Drive, and I'm here representing Wakefield Winery Distillery, Bim Distillery, located in Hanover, Indiana. And I speak adamantly against the house is obvious. So we appreciate your work protecting our neighbors and our community against the problems associated with barrel houses. We would not look that. And also, thank you very much for all your hard work on everything for both sides. It's been really tough on you guys, and I'm really impressed with both the red and the green. It's not very often you see such frankness in making that competitions. So everybody does their job. Don't get the impression everybody's gonna win or anybody's gonna win. It's probably gonna be just sort of everybody's gonna get something, and nobody's gonna get everything. So I guess that's how it's supposed to be. But thank you for the work on the Barrel House.
That concludes our hearing this evening. So just go ahead and call our plan commission meeting to order. Can you hear me without the mic or no? That concludes our hearing, so we'll go ahead and call our plan commission meeting to order. We'll have a roll call.
Warren Oxford,
Here.
David Bramer.
Here.
David Ferguson.
Here.
Jenny Beverly.
Here.
Lisa Hammack.
Here.
Mike Pittman.
Here.
Larry Wynn.
Here.
Rick Copeland. Ray Black.
Thank you. We have a quorum, so we'll continue with our meeting. We'll move on to the only item of business we have this evening is discussing a favorable or unfavorable recommendation or no recommendation on the UDO that we have before us, or also a discussion of possible changes that the planning commission we're going to make to the proposed UDO. I suggest that we start with the barrel house ordinances. We have those in two sections, and so seems to be very little controversy over those, and would like to see if any of you have any comments, any thing to add to those. If you would, pick up the microphone or we'll share one of you. Any comments on barrel house ordinance? Would anyone like to make a motion for a recommendation one way or the other on the barrel house ordinance?
I'd like to make a motion for favorable.
We have a second of that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote for a favorable recommendation on the barrel house ordinance.
Warren Oster.
Yes.
David Bramer.
Yes.
David Ferguson.
Yes.
Jenny Beverly.
Yes.
Lisa Hammack.
Yes.
Mike Pittman.
Yes.
Larry Wynn.
Yes.
That's unanimous, right? We'll move on then to discussion, and we've heard from the public this evening and also reviewed the written material that was submitted to us. And interested in what your comments, thoughts are on our ordinances, where they are.
I'd like to make some changes. We'll have to clean this up later, but on the compaction portion of it, after talking to soil scientists and agronomists, doing the soil compaction test along with the soil fertility test is the compaction test, it wouldn't be as relevant as the fertility because it's just doing a small area. I would like to make the change that after the decommission, we do deep tillage on the tillable acres. And that would be considered at anywhere from 10 to 14 inches deep. And we can wordsmith it, however, to make it an appropriate spot.
You're proposing that as an amendment, correct? Or that is a motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second for that amendment? Then we'll have discussion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Now let's open up for discussion on any comments on making a change on the decompaction. If not, I'll call for a roll call vote on the amendment change.
Warren Oster.
Yes.
David Bramer.
I know, but where you talking about?
On the decommission.
I know. Page 74.
On page 74. We have where we have on there is we're testing it where we're doing the fertility test, you know, side by side. We're removing that, so there won't be any compaction test ahead of time. It's just at the very end, when they're done reviewing. And we'll still do the fertility, but we will just, on the tillage part, what the farmers are farming now, they'll just do deep tillage to break up that compaction due to roadways or the posts where the solar panels are sitting or whatever. And using normal, I don't know, it'll be back, in 30 years, but a chisel plow or a V ripper or standard tillage equipment.
So it's no real testing, we're just gonna make them
Just
fill it out.
fill it, just like a normal farm would do.
Alright.
So,
So, and I vote down.
yes.
Yes.
David Ferguson.
Yes.
Jenny Beverly. Lisa Hammond. Mike Pittman
Yes.
and Larry Wynn.
Yes.
What other comments do we have on our, any other proposed changes?
I'm not sure we discussed this before, but I would like to see if I could require that the panels do not contain any hazardous materials. And as part of the application, they give their MSPS sheets along with that, so they know what's in the. And we touched it briefly in discussions, but. Discuss what you guys provide from my super date, if we need to change what they. We actually didn't discuss it, but we didn't include it. And we didn't, that's important. This part, soil health.
You have a spot where that would go.
Well, would it go close to the testing or would it be in the application?
That's the application, I would imagine.
In the application.
You're proposing amendment that we would add a requirement that they supply a material safety data sheet for the solar panels as part of their application.
Yes.
But did you want it to be all non-haz, or did you want it, or you just want to know what's in it? Which did you want?
I would prefer non-hazardous.
Because that's a different one. How would make this proposal?
Yeah. So,
You need a second.
well, I think we need to have a little bit of discussion over the possibility of, I understand the requirement of requiring the, material safety data sheet. I don't know that if we're taking a probably step too far, it's for us to have a requirement as to what is in that particular sheet or not in that sheet. The sheet would be informing in the application process and, in the review of it, they could evaluate accordingly.
Something that BCA does,
Something.
the BCA does ask for.
It would be part of the application that the planning commission director, the planning commission would review for the solar. And I believe once the sheet was available to them, if there needed to be other provisions because there being hazardous material there or so forth, it could be addressed at that time. I think it's a problem to, put limits to what that material safety data sheet can read at this particular time. I think currently we require that the panels be UL approved or have a certain rating, but, I entertain a motion then that we add a sort of development application that the material safety data sheet has to be provided for the panels that are going to be used on the project. We have such a motion. You want to make it that, Lisa?
Yes.
All right. We have a second for that. Oh, good. Any discussion, anyone else have any comments on that? If not, roll call vote on that amendment.
Warren Mosher,
Yes.
David Bramer,
Yes.
David Ferguson,
Yes.
Jenny Beverly,
Yes.
Lisa Hammond,
Yes.
Mike Pittman,
Yes.
Larry Wynn.
Yes.
Anyone have anything else? I had asked Pat to review the letter that we got in from the property owners and so forth, and can you give us a review or what your thoughts are on that?
Sure. So, this specifically is review of the sites and arts letter. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. There's been some discussion about Indiana Code 36.728. And I think both sides have referenced it. But it is true that, that code does, provide for, Indiana promoting the use of solar energy systems. But it does allow for, individual units to adopt ordinances, so long as they don't unreasonably restrict the use of solar ordinances, or sorry, unreasonably restrict the use of solar energy. And as been pointed out, that trigger is, reasonable restrictions to preserve and protect public health and safety are still valid. Specifically with regard to the concerns that were outlined there were two that I thought were sort of notable. One was the concern that the current status provides for a affidavit responsibility for the landowner. But that the bonding requirements provides that the county is actually the recipient of the bonds. And then the concern that was raised is that what can the landowner do if they are not actually the recipient of the bonds? And so I had proposed some potential change in language with regards to that potentially adding to make it clear that the intent is that the decommissioning would be the responsibility of the project owner. And then only if the project owner didn't follow through on the decommissioning plan, that in that instance, the bond would kick in and the county would use the bonds to carry out the decommissioning plan. And then only in the instance where the bond was insufficient to cover the cost of decommissioning was the intent that the property owner would have responsibility for additional costs of decommissioning. So that would be the section chapter 3, section MQ 3.5 would be a potential add of language to clarify that affidavit responsibility is not intended to kick directly to the property owner, but only after each of those steps are taken. The other issue that I thought was important was that there was some discussion about how aggressive the soil testing was on decommission. And that was based on restoring the property to its prior position in use. Obviously, some of these projects could last decades, and if they're successful, last potentially beyond that. And what's pointed out is that potential is for change in the character of the land around it, as well as potential for change in the zoning of the land. And if that would happen, then potentially use of the land wouldn't actually be going back to its prior use, it could be going to a different future permitted use. So potentially then allowing for a application for variance from those decommissioning standards based on if the property owner specifically is petitioning for a variance based on changes in the character and zoning use of the property, so long as it's permitted. So that's the handouts. Those are the two things that I really thought of.
Thank you. So basically the amendment that we would add would cover the possibility of the property not being used for crop production. Basically reads, what's being proposed is the property owner may petition the Jefferson County Commissioners for a variance from the right site restoration requirements if the property owner intends to utilize the property for a use permitted in the applicable zoning district other than the original use. The Jefferson County Commissioner shall consider the intended future use of the property as well as any changes to the zoning and character of the property in case of properties in determining the propriety of any variance from the site restoration. Everyone follow what the intent of that would be if the land wasn't going to be put back to be used for cropland in that particular instance. It could be changed to another permitted use in that zoning district. And the commissioners would not necessarily require some of the same things on the land restoration. Any thoughts, questions there? Was there anything else to bring everything back?
No, I think that was it.
Other thoughts, can I entertain a motion on making these two changes? Any questions, Alderman?
You want a motion?
Yes. Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Okay, any further discussion on those two? Not roll call, vote on those two.
Warren Oster,
Yes.
David Bramer,
Yes.
David Ferguson,
Yes.
Jenny Beverly. Lisa Hammack.
Yeah.
Mike Pittman.
Yes.
Larry Wynn.
Yes.
All right, thank you, motion passes. And we're ready, anyone else have anything else in particular? Lisa?
I'm going to abstain from voting.
Or have any other thoughts?
I have one more, amendment to propose. There's a lot of discussion about setbacks and a lot of concerns from the existing, landowners and concerns and a lot was mentioned about the 1,000 feet and, I would like to make a motion for amendment to go back to 1,000 feet on the, from an existing dwelling.
I'm accepting that.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion on that? Want to add reasons, so forth?
Just like I stated in the initially was, we want to be consistent as a county in expectations. And, we have 1,000 on confined feeding, which was mentioned quite a few times. But also, you live there and I'd rather be ultra conservative and not put someone that's close to it and too close. And I know some others would say that's extreme, 1,000, but you can, once you build it too close, it's hard to back it off. And, I would rather get some in, if we have to make some changes later, then that would be a proposal to do, but I would like to put some people's mind at ease that they know that at least 1,000 feet away from their home, you know, give them a little peace of mind.
I want to be sure that we're understanding your amendment correctly, that in our draft, that wherever it reads 500 foot, that setback would be changed to 1,000 foot.
Just from an existing dwelling.
Just from exist, non-participating, existing dwelling, yes. That's the only change you're proposing. The rest would
On the
stay.
property lines and all that say where it is.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor to change the setback from non-participating dwelling, church, school, cemetery on parcel zone AG, MB, DB, I1 or I2. We're at one and wrong one.
We have it for the existing farm.
Here it is, parcel, this parcel. Parcel with existing dwelling, yes, this is it. Parcel with existing single family, two family dwelling, church, school, or cemetery within zoning district would be changed from 500 feet to 1,000 feet. We'll have a roll call vote.
Warren Oxford.
No.
David Bramer.
No.
David Ferguson.
Yes.
Jenny Beverly.
Yes.
Lisa Hammack.
Okay.
Abstain. Mike Pittman
Yes.
and Larry Wynn.
There's nothing to both sides of this. I'm gonna go with yes.
We have a majority of those, in order for it to pass, it would take 5 votes of the board to make that amendment change, so the amendment fails. You have anything else? Would someone like to make a motion as far as whether we give a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the commissioners that the UDO is now written with the proposed amendments?
I'd like to make a suggestion that we relook it up, excuse me, our prime ag ground to more protect our ag ground than just letting this go in. We have different ag ground. And I think we need to classify them as different and what can go in as our prime ag ground. I'd like to look at that and should we take it out of our prime ag ground to preserve and protect it more. I suggest we. Or make a motion, sorry.
You wanna make a motion to table for this evening then?
I will relook at it.
You may have a motion on second for a table this evening.
I'll second it for discussion.
We have a motion to table our decision this evening. Any further discussion on that? Now, we'll have a roll call vote on the,
Warren Archer,
no,
David Bramer,
Yes.
David Ferguson,
Yes.
Jenny Beverly,
Yes.
Lisa Hamdick, Mike Pittman,
Yes.
Larry Wynn.
Nope.
what's that? Make a motion to table is failed. 2-4 vote takes 5 to move that forward. I still entertain the motion this evening is to a favorable or unfavorable recommendation on the whole.
I make a motion that we move on with moving these to the commissioners.
With what recommendation?
Favorable.
We have a second. Thank you. Anyone? We have a second. Okay, any discussion? We have a motion on the floor to make a favorable recommendation to the commissioners on the UDO as presented with the amendments that we've made to it this evening. We'll have a roll call vote.
Warren Archer,
Yes.
David Bramer,
Yes.
David Ferguson,
Yes.
Jenny Beverly, Mike Pittman,
No.
and Larry Wynn.
Yes.
That motion failed as well, correct? We didn't have 5. Yes. Any other suggested action from this evening? Well, let's try another motion then to table our discussion on the ordinances till the next planning commission meeting.
Make a motion on the table, discussion to the next meeting.
We have a second.
I second that.
If we first, second, we have a roll call vote.
Warren Archer,
Yes.
David Bramer,
Yes.
David Ferguson,
Yes.
Jenny Beverly,
Yes.
Mike Pittman,
Yes.
Larry Wynn.
Yes.
Motion passes. I think that concludes our business for this evening. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.